Hi, this is Campaign at Adtech, and I have with me Gavin Buxton. He's the VP and MD APAC for Magnite. And we're going to start by understanding about the session that they had yesterday, which saw a very good participation of 100 people. So, Gavin, firstly, thank you for taking the time to speak to Campaign.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to chat with you and delighted to be at the event overall.
It's always a great pleasure talking to you as well, but I really wish I was the fly on the wall when you were having your session yesterday, which I think had close to 100 participants.
Yeah, we ran two sessions yesterday, both well attended, over 100 people joined us with kind of two key topic areas that I'm happy to dive into.
So one of them was about omni-channel, right?
Yes.
So can you just give me a brief about the session, what was covered and why you came up with that particular topic at this juncture in time?
Yeah, so we touched on omnichannel. We work with a number of publishers and media owners within the ecosystem. And one of the questions they have for us is how they can be best set up to monetize today, but also considering what changes are coming ahead with AI evolutions and operational changes. So we ran a session which was around omnichannel, which covers from native to display to online video to in-app web. And with that, it was really going through some of the foundations of how they can be setting up their inventory, how they can structure their setup to be best positioned for success today. And also when AI comes into the picture, really making sure your data sets and how you present it into the data ecosystem for programmatic is going to enable them to be in the best position for success as automation comes further into play.
So you mentioned about, what's going to come up in the next few months or rather years. What were some of the things that you predict will take place in the omnichannel space and how will it help brands?
With relation to AI?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, from whether omnichannel or into CTV or OTT, when it comes to AI, we're seeing that it's going to make operationals smarter and more efficient and effective. So that within that, when it comes to campaign setups, for actual targeting, optimization in real time, measurement and reporting, operational setups, all of these are going to be in a position to be more optimized. Examples of that can be with some partners we work with, they could have 100 to 200 lines that they set up per campaign based on location targeting, creative targeting. So today that can be kind of man hours to activate that. With AI, there's tools now that can make that happen very quickly in automation through that. So that operational layer will become more efficient and effective. From our perspective, that will make solutions better for both publishers and buyers and make the ecosystem work more effectively.
So you spoke about omni-channel, and I'm sure in India you would have seen the emergence of quick commerce, right?
Yes.
And all the various aspects you mentioned about, display ads, retail, video, all of these are now one sees them in quick channel formats also. When you talk about man hours and invested in the number of campaigns that you create, what are some of your predictions for the quick commerce sector?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, when it comes to quick commerce or retail media, there's a number of those platforms that are looking at advertising in terms of bringing ads into their own ecosystem, and also how they can activate the data and insights that they have to be able to help brands connect with audiences. So one of the trends that we've seen over the last couple of years is signal loss when it comes to third-party data. Which is making it leaning more into publisher first, publisher direct, and first-party data activation from publishers or brands. So in the quick commerce, fast commerce, retail media, they sit on a huge amount of real valuable data. So the opportunity for them to work with brands to enable them to be activated on their platform or taking their data to curate across the open internet is a significant development and one we're working with a number of partners on as well.
And what has the experience been? Because even in quick commerce, one sees that, or rather retail media, I stand corrected, you see a diverse setup over there. So, whether it's delivery, whether it's food delivery, whether it's groceries and everything and so on and so forth. There is such a plethora of platforms out there.
Yes.
And they're all trying to ensure, like you said, ads on their own platforms because they're sitting on such rich data.
Yes.
They seem to have a lot of native ads. They seem to have a lot of things that they're doing. But where do you think they should gradually start moving their attention towards?
Um, well, we've seen with opening up ads, it's opening up an additional revenue stream for them. I think a key part of that is making sure the ad experience adds to the experience and doesn't take away from what consumers are going to do there. So one part is ensuring that how they bring ads into the ecosystem is done in the right way, so that it doesn't take away from what people are going there to do. And that's a key part when we work with partners and how they can be setting up, where they could be placing ads. And then additionally, it's about that data set usage is getting the right ad in front of the right person. So with the data and insights that they have, they can ensure that they're helping brands reach the right audience. So whether that's people that have been consuming a certain product or category of product, that's a rich data set to take to other brands to be able to reach to that specific user consumer.
So from retail media, I'm now going to shift gears to live sports.
Yes.
The reason is that, India, we are cricket crazy, right? And you see, it's a religion over here.
Yeah.
And if you see, US is going to be hosting the World Cup this year. So again, there is a lot of attention when it comes to live sports streaming. And very interestingly, live sports streaming compresses demand into minutes, which earlier used to be like days.
Yes.
In your opinion, what breaks first in the ad tech stack when infrastructure isn't built for that kind of change, transition, or volatility?
Yeah, so I mean, live sports as a company, our ad technology is set up to work across omnichannel and into CTV. CTV is a kind of sweet spot of focus, and live sports is a key area of focus for us globally. So we work with broadcasters across the world in helping them enable live sports. India is an exceptionally exciting market. The record, I believe at the moment that's shared, is 65.2 million on the semi-final of India, unfortunately against England, and the result that came through, but congratulations to India on winning the overall tournament.
Thank you.
But that was 65.2 million concurrent users at peak moment. So that's a key point to your question of what are the challenges, what's different. So outside of live sports, there's more predictability of when people are going to come into your web properties during the day. There could be spikes, but obviously, live sport moment, a shared moment of the population, that 65.2 million is not something that the ad tech ecosystem has been used to. That's a global record now. So with that, when it comes to a technical aspect, in that moment, we have, if they're opening up ads in the ad break, everyone comes in at the same time. There's a huge concurrency then of ads coming in at the same time. That adds pressure into the whole ecosystem, from the ad server to the supply side platform, into programmatic on the demand side platform, the DSP. It raises the amount of data coming through, the amount of ad calls, which has a cost and implication for everyone involved, and also the processing time of dealing with that.
Correct.
So that can potentially crash systems if not done correctly. So from our perspective, we've been working in this area for a number of years. We've launched a number of products to help on that. So we have a product called LSA, which is Live Stream Accelerator. Essentially that starts to make ad calls before an ad break, so that it's flattening down the concurrency. So rather than there being a peak of all the people coming in at once, we're trying to flatten that out a bit so that the systems can better process it. So from the ad server to the SSP and to the DSP. So it makes that more manageable. It kind of creates bite-sized pieces. It still enables the call to take place. It's still the authentic user at the end of the ad being received, but it just helps the ecosystem not be as stretched. So that's one area where we're assisting with our technology to enable this to be opened up programmatically. Another tool we launched is Live Scheduler. So with these events, in bringing them into programmatic specifically, we now have a tool where the broadcaster can preload all the events that are coming up, put the information about them, and then that information is able to be received from the demand side, and then they can be prepared for the actual live spikes that could be coming. So there's some of the areas that we're focused on, which really, again, to that problem of increased scale in one moment that could break the ecosystem, is how do we make that manageable for everyone within that ecosystem. In India, the opening of live sports to programmatic is something that's really just happening in the last year, and we're working with a number of partners to help them on that journey, which we've done in other markets, but every market's different, and India is very unique in its own right in the scale within this space.
So now, as you're working with live sports and programmatic, right, in India especially, and you've spoken about, how you're flattening down on concurrency to make life more manageable. Basis this, your experience, have there been any instances where you've seen campaigns fail in real time, and those learnings are something that you will probably bring to the Indian market because now you're literally battle hardened?
Yes. Yes, for us, really those spikes is one of the main challenges. So if not prepared, there's an issue of it forcing an amount of ad calls within the ecosystem that would essentially potentially turn it off, or they wouldn't be able to listen for it. So if that's not managed in the right way, the actual ad calls coming through wouldn't be able to be received, the opportunity to bid and activate an ad in that moment wouldn't be able to take place. So we've seen through working in other markets, we've been able to work progressively and kind of raising the concurrency we can work with and make sure that we're able to deliver against that in the right way. But along the way, there's opportunities for things to fall over if not done in the right way, and that's something we, obviously with our technology, are looking to avoid.
Okay, so you mentioned about this in live sports, but do you think this can also be extended to live events? It is a marketing channel that's really opening up significantly in India and globally. Now the thing is that it requires a completely different setup from on-demand, right? So do you think that, when marketers are looking at live events, so what specifically changes in the bidding logic, the latency management? You mentioned about concurrency when you're talking about live sports. So similarly, what are some of the specific changes? And it could also be pacing,
Yes.
because when it comes to live events, it's also very important how you do the entire pacing. And not many platforms seem to have cracked that code.
So I think live sports and live events, it's a big growth area globally in India, and it's not just cricket. There's a number of obviously other sports and events. So we're seeing one, there's an increased demand from buyers wanting to be in the moment. So they see that emotional connection of being in the moment is there, and it's really opening up buyers that couldn't be able to access these events the opportunity to bid and run smaller campaigns where before there may be a big entry price to be part of these events. Through programmatic, it's enabling, when biddable inventory is enabled, it's enabling smaller brands to be part of the event. So with that, when it comes to programmatic, the opportunity to have extended demand is there. So one of the challenges from a traditional ad server is that they're used to a smaller set of brands that they're managing non-programmatically. Once they're looking to open them up programmatically, then there could be hundreds, thousands of brands that are bidding in the moment to be part of that experience.
Correct.
So dealing with a unified ad stack that's able to understand, be able to send out all the ad calls to all the demand partners and then be able to listen and understand that is a key component. So that's an area where we work with partners on to give a unified ad stack. They can enable those ad calls to go out to partners with flattening the actual ad calls going out to be able to be listened to and then bid against it. So that's a big area of growth, and it's an education to buyers as well. So historically, they haven't necessarily been live sports events that have been available. So some buyers aren't aware yet that these opportunities are now coming through. So there's a degree of education and evangelism to ensure that buyers are aware, and then they're in a position to bid against it.
That's a very interesting point, what you mentioned about evangelism and education that is required. So whether it's live sports, whether it's live events, Magnite has products in both these spaces, and it has been delivering over there and working very closely with its partners. So what are some key learnings, when you have worked with these partners? in helping them identify how exactly they should go about bidding, how exactly, in which of the channels they should go about bidding, how should they go ensure that, they are at the right place, catering to the right consumers, and there is not too much of their ad wastage that is there.
Yeah, a few areas that come up in best practices. One of them, with a number of the broadcasters and investing so much money in live sports, they have a brand set they're already working with. So when they come into programmatic, they're not necessarily, they're wanting to monitor who is bidding and who is buying and ensure that they're not cannibalizing from one area to another. So one of the best practices within that and the opportunities for brands is that they have the opportunity to have block lists of who can or cannot bid. And that's not necessarily just blocking out brands that they're working with, it's enabling them to work with them in different ways. So they can set pricing guidelines of when that brand could bid at what price, so they could actually buy more inventory in the moment if they want to invest in it. But it can also be, there's certain higher regulations when it comes to live sports as to which brands are able to be in that space or which brands they feel comfortable about being in a live environment. So the block list that they can use really gives them the safety and insurance that when they open this up, there's not going to be any issues for the end user experience in brands that they don't want to be part of it. So that's kind of one area as a foundation, because if those controls aren't in place, then brands probably, the broadcasters won't open up this inventory. So that foundation of understanding what's coming through and then enabling to control what can come through, what they will allow to win an ad, is kind of a foundation set. When you get into the bidding metrics and methodology, to come back to your kind of previous question, if a campaign is set up for ASP deliveries, deliver as soon as possible, with such a large degree of supply, it could deliver very quickly. So there's some kind of common practices within any campaign of whether that's around frequency capping, whether it's around even delivery over a period of time of a campaign. There's a number of kind of operational metrics that when campaigns are being set up, the buyer activating, the trader should be taking care of, because live can accentuate the problems if something comes up. So there's definitely best practices to follow within that ecosystem.
So what you mentioned about the block list and having this kind of an operational practice that is there is very required, because today audiences are fragmented. They are across CTV, mobile, audio and fast channels.
Yep.
And this also brings to core one issue, which is measurement. It's becoming, the risk of measurement is becoming more probabilistic rather than precise. And I'm sure you must have seen that, in experience.
Yep.
So how should brand rethink effectiveness if reach and engagement are no longer the stable matrix?
I think the fragmentation of media is a challenge. And that's, within OTT, we've obviously seen the big players grow, but, in India especially, there's 48 plus OTT channels. And we're seeing a number of the regional ones come into the ecosystem now, and we expect more to do so.
Correct.
So it's exciting from the broadcaster perspective of opening up that inventory. I guess from audiences having more tailored ads coming to them with programmatic. So that's an exciting area, but also from a brand buyer perspective, even if you're just looking at OTT and not even the whole ecosystem, is how do I need to work with 50 publishers, broadcasters to reach everyone if it's a big campaign? So curation is a big part that we ourselves also work within. So we have a product called Clearline Curation, and that's really enabling buyers to have hands-on keyboards to actually curate inventory across the kind of open internet of supply that we have. So that could be OTT specific, or it could be into OLV or DOOH or audio. We can create curated packages and give them the tools to be able to pull that inventory together. With that, there's some exciting opportunities of them being able to, from thousands of supply, tailor down the supply that they want. They can then start bringing in their first-party data into that ecosystem so that it can get more tailored against who they want to reach on a safe supply list, and then start customizing the creative against that as well. So if you're segmenting the audience sets, you can have more tailored creative within that. So in coming to the measurement part, again, a foundational piece is getting the right campaign in place in the beginning. So that curation of inventory with data, with creative, we're building out tools that enable forecasting on that. so that you're in a position to understand the reach potential across a certain audience set, across the different formats, and then set your campaign up to deliver with frequency capping against that. So we have additional clear line activation tools that help within this, or it can be sent on to their preferred DSP. So that opening part of the setup of the campaign and activation is a key part from our view of how that can work into then looking at the performance optimization and measurement of a campaign.
So will brands get this foundational piece, of where they have the right campaign in place? While they get that in place, the line between the buy sell and the sell side is beginning to blur
Right.
to a great extent. So in such a situation, according to you, who ultimately controls pricing and transparency?
Yeah, you bring up a key trend there. I mean, a key trend that we're seeing is that with reduction of signals, the buying decisioning is moving closer to the supply side. So that's to say, back to that signal loss of third-party data, there's an increased importance and focus on publisher direct, first-party data, whether that's the publisher or brand, and that direct path to publishers. So supply-side companies such as Magnite are in a unique position there and being closest to the publisher's infrastructure to be able to help on that first-party data activation, direct path to publishers, back to that curation of supply, which ultimately leads to more effective and transparent activation buying, which helps both better outcomes for both publishers and broadcasters. So the data activation, we're seeing a greater opportunity to do that on the supply side. As to the activation on the demand side, that can still be through the DSPs that historically work with, or we have tools now that can help with that as well. So it's really at the buyer's discretion and decision where they want the buying point to activate against, but we're seeing a greater amount of data and direct supply path as a key focus for everyone to make it work well.
So you use the word opportunity. Now that also correlates with another thing that I have in mind, which is supply side optimization as well.
Yes.
In alignment with the opportunity. Now, do you think that supply side optimization is simplifying the ecosystem, or is it actually concentrating the power in the hands of a few?
From our perspective, when you look at the Lunascape from years ago, the amount of partners that were in the ecosystem was significant, and that fragmentation, not just of publishers and partners, was also within ad technology that's used. So it makes it a very complex ecosystem for buyers. I think with supply path optimization, it is really, from a buyer perspective, how can they simplify the amount of people they're working with and get the most effective and efficient buying opportunities within that. So that consolidation and leading into SPO, we see as a good thing for that effectiveness and efficiency to reduce the amount of players that are involved into a few. Then there's more working media. So before, when there was many intermediaries, there could be kind of fees being added on unintentionally or unawares, I should say, within the ecosystem. So with some of the changes happening on greater direct supply through ecosystems such as our own, buyers are in a position to better understand where their ad dollars are going, and then focus in on that, and then be able to increase the amount of working media by making each dollar work better for them. So yes, there should be a collection of partners within that ecosystem, but there's definitely an opportunity for reducing it down on that collaboration and consolidation.
So you mentioned about buyers being aware about where their ad dollars are going, and we see that AI agents are now playing a very key role when it comes to reallocation of this particular ad dollars, right? The kind of marketing budgets that brands have, and also executing decisions in real time. So what happens to planning, accountability, and even brand building when it's machines, not marketers, who start shaping both investment and outcomes?
I mean, it's a hugely interesting growth area. I mean, when it comes to programmatic in the ecosystem we're in, machine learning was always part of what we've done. That's kind of extending now into AI. Again, it's making the ecosystem smarter and more efficient. AI agents is an area that we're in as well, and there'll be some launches later in the year around that. And we're already working and doing opening campaigns we've kind of highlighted in the press. I think within that, it's making things work more efficiently and effectively. Seller agents, buyer agents are going to be able to communicate with each other and ensure they're activating in the right way. As per our session yesterday, it's enabling the supply side publishers set themselves up for ensuring that information is able to pass. That's a key component. So we see efficiency and effectiveness coming through that. When it comes to the human touch part of it, we still see that things need to be set up by someone in the direction it's going in terms of the tasks it should be activating, and in qualifying the data sets and the performance happening against it. So from our perspective, we see that the ecosystem can get better in what it's doing through the tools, but it's going to need a human touch to still direct it in the right way and make programmatic work even more effectively.
This is very interesting. It is a recurrent theme that almost everybody is talking about human in the loop,
Yeah.
And somebody else gave a very nice acronym saying it would be not not agent to agent, not business to agent, or agent to consumer.
Yeah.
It's going to be HAI. It's going to be human agent interface.
Right.
And I feel that while we are here at Adtech and everybody's talking about technology, it dials down into the human.
Yes.
Everything boils down to that.
Yes.
Whether it's even the trader, right, who's
Yep.
taking the off-the-cuff decisions on how to set up the channel. So, in the course of the day and a half that you have been at this
Yeah.
event, what are some of the interesting conversations that you had, and did it trigger any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, to come to that human interface part, I mean, events such as this is really that collaboration across partners. A lot of what I've spoken about is really technology can solve for problems, but it's really speaking with partners, the collaboration, identifying the opportunities, whether that's retail media coming into the OTT environment, whether it's AI creative development that can make retail media the number of smaller buyers activate into CTV. So us being able to identify key opportunities is really about human connection and collaboration. And we're seeing the direction that's taken is driven what we're looking at. The tools are going to enable us to be more effective against that. So coming back to your question, key areas for us, live sports is a key area and a big topic of discussion and has been on the stage. We're seeing DOOH is an area of growth in India especially. We've seen it elsewhere, especially in LATAM, a big growth area there, but it's another key area, key screen, how do we bring that into programmatic? And we're working with a number of partners around that. Retail media, we've touched on. I think micro dramas and vertical video. We kind of classify that into three areas of vertical video. There's scripted drama, the micro drama. There's factual short form, so whether that's news, sports, or there's user generated. But when it comes to the open internet and areas we're working with partners on is in that factual and micro drama. And we're seeing a number of partners already live with or launching short form drama, vertical video, shorts at this time, and more planning to do so. So we're working with them as to how we make sure, again, the signals and what's passed through is done in the right way, and what's the best ad opportunity within that. What length of ad should it be? How should we be opening up those content opportunities to brands, and how we best make sure the ad experience is good for consumers.
But how exactly do you create that kind of an opportunity in a space like micro dramas, by which virtue of itself, it's not even snackable content, it's bite-sized content.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that the signals are well placed over there for a brand to be able to justify the kind of ad dollars it's investing?
I mean, a lot of what we've learnt within CTV, OTT, live sports is all the content metadata that's coming through. So whether that's around the show, whether it's around the actors, whether it's around the category, and the kind of list goes on of how that can be categorized. When it comes to CTV and live sports, we've worked a lot in that environment to make sure that all the signals are coming through in the right way so that buyers can understand what's coming through and what's going to resonate for them. So signals is a key part that we're working with, and it's the same into microdrama, vertical. There's a certain content, a certain genre, certain shows that some of them are hugely popular. So that information can make sure the buyers are aware of what it is and how they can be activating against it.
I'm going to be watching that space because I'm very curious where it's headed.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a flash in the pan, or is it something that has got a long tail of sustainability? So, yeah, with that, Gavin, I wanted to thank you for taking the time. I know it's been a very busy schedule for you, but thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Campaign. And it's always lovely catching up with you and learning what Magnite is. And next time you have a session, I definitely hope to be there.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to catch up with you, and we appreciate all your coverage in the and catching up on the industry. In India, it's an exciting market. We always come to these events and kind of leave more enthused and energized about the opportunities in India. So we look forward to collaborating in the future.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to make a shameless brand plug over here. I'm going to ask you to say in maybe 3 sentences what Campaign stands for you.
Campaign for me is keeping on top of the trends and activities within the ecosystem that ensures that we're best placed to support our partners and grow our business.
All right, thank you so much.